Miyamoto Musashi had a pretty unique and powerful approach to mental discipline. Musashi wasn't just a legendary swordsman, he was also a philosopher and writer. His most famous work, The Book of Five Rings, Gorin no Sho, dives deep into strategy, mindset, and mastery. Here's how his teachings can help conquer overthinking. Overthinking is a silent enemy that drains our energy, muddles our focus, and leads us away from clarity. Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary samurai and philosopher, approached life with a disciplined and focused mind. He believed that hesitation and excessive thought created gaps in one's spirit, allowing fear and confusion to enter. In a world full of distractions, Musashi's stoic wisdom teaches us to streamline our thinking, focus only on what matters, and take decisive action without delay. Musashi taught that one must avoid doing anything that is of no use. This teaching is not just about physical actions, but also extends to mental habits. Overthinking often involves spinning scenarios that never materialize or ruminating on problems without moving toward solutions. Musashi would advise us to cut these mental weeds, leaving only thoughts that serve a purpose. By doing so, we conserve energy and sharpen our minds like a well-honed blade. One of Musashi's most famous lessons is that fixation is the way to death, while fluidity is the way to life. Overthinking is a form of fixation, an inability to let go of thoughts that swirl and loop endlessly. Musashi believed that to live fully, one must be like water, adaptable, ever-flowing, and responsive to the environment. When we cling too tightly to thoughts, we become rigid and vulnerable. When we flow freely, we remain strong and resilient. In Musashi's time, a moment of hesitation could mean death. He honed the ability to act without being paralyzed by choices. This does not mean recklessness, but rather a cultivated instinct built through practice and presence. Today we face different kinds of duels, decisions in careers, relationships, and daily challenges. Musashi teaches us that by training our minds to be present and our spirits to be strong, we can make clear decisions without the burden of overanalyzing. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. This principle encourages humility and detachment from ego. Much of our overthinking stems from how we perceive ourselves or how we fear being judged. Musashi's wisdom reminds us to shift focus from internal fears to external realities. When we think deeply about the world and our role in it, we gain perspective that reduces the noise of self-doubt and unproductive introspection. Musashi emphasized the importance of direct experience. He fought over 60 duels and never lost. His insights were forged in the crucible of real-life conflict. Today, we often try to think our way into action rather than act our way into clarity. Musashi's approach reverses this. Take action, reflect, and refine. This dynamic process prevents the paralysis that overthinking breeds. There is more than one path to the top of the mountain. This profound statement from Musashi challenges the perfectionist mindset that fuels overthinking. Many of us believe there is only one right way, one perfect decision. Musashi shows us that multiple paths can lead to mastery or success. When we embrace this, we free ourselves from the need to predict everything and can instead act boldly, adjusting as we go. Musashi's training wasn't just about combat. He was also an accomplished calligrapher, painter, and writer. His philosophy of simplicity, clarity, and purpose extended to all disciplines. By applying this mindset to our own pursuits, we can reduce mental clutter and engage fully in the present moment. Whether in creative work or daily tasks, Musashi's method promotes focus and intentionality. To conquer overthinking, Musashi would first advise us to strengthen the spirit. This involves cultivating inner resilience through meditation, physical discipline, and honest self-reflection. Overthinking often comes from a lack of trust in oneself. By training the spirit, we build confidence in a centered mind that can cut through the fog of indecision like a sword through mist. Musashi understood that distraction was the enemy of precision. In battle, a distracted mind was a dead one. Today, we face constant mental intrusions, notifications, social media, and the chatter of modern life. Overthinking is amplified by this chaos. Musashi would recommend simplifying your environment, clearing your mind, and returning to the essence of what needs to be done. Action to Musashi was a form of meditation. He didn't just practice swordsmanship, he became the sword. Every movement, every breath was deliberate. Overthinking pulls us out of the moment. Musashi teaches that full immersion in the task at hand silences the noise within. If you're overthinking, try pouring yourself fully into something physical or creative. Let action lead thought, not the other way around. Musashi's philosophy was rooted in the concept of no mind, Mushin, a state where the mind is free from distraction and hesitation. This isn't about having no thoughts at all, but about being unencumbered by excess thought. In Mushin, actions arise naturally, guided by intuition and training. This is the antidote to overthinking, a mind that is clear, calm, and ready. Simplicity was sacred to Musashi. He lived as a wandering ronin, owning little and focusing only on essentials. Overthinking often thrives in complexity. Too many options, too much information, too many opinions. Musashi would urge us to simplify our lives, our goals, and our decisions. When there is less to think about, we can think more clearly. Musashi believed that the path to mastery involved relentless practice. Overthinking can be a sign that we haven't practiced enough. We lack confidence because we haven't built muscle memory. When we train consistently, whether it's a skill, a routine, or a mindset, we rely less on analysis and more on embodied knowledge. Repetition breeds confidence, and confidence silences doubt. A key part of Musashi's method was observing the enemy closely. He didn't just react. He studied his opponents, their habits, their patterns. This teaches us that observation, not speculation, is the key to wise decision-making. Overthinking guesses at what might happen. Musashi's way is to see what is happening. By grounding ourselves in observation, we make decisions based on reality, not imagination. Musashi wrote, "Perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye." He was speaking about intuition, an inner knowing that arises when the mind is quiet and attuned. Overthinking drowns out intuition. To develop this inner sight, we must learn to trust silence and stillness. It is often in these quiet moments that our best answers emerge. Musashi walked alone, not out of arrogance, but to cultivate independence of mind. He was not swayed by the opinions or fears of others. Much overthinking comes from worrying about what others will think. Musashi teaches that our path must be walked with clarity and courage. Others may advise or criticize, but ultimately, your life is your duel to fight. To live like Musashi is to embrace impermanence. He accepted death as part of life and thus was not paralyzed by it. Overthinking often stems from fear of failure, loss, or change. Musashi teaches that by accepting the transient nature of all things, we free ourselves to act boldly and live fully. What we fear loses its grip when we no longer cling to outcomes. Musashi's duels were not always with blades. Many were internal. He faced loneliness, doubt, and the challenge of walking his own path. His writings reflect a deep inner journey. To conquer overthinking, we too must look inward, confront our fears, and develop inner stillness. True mastery, Musashi believed, was over the self. Lastly, Musashi's way is not about force, but harmony. He studied the rhythm of battle, the timing of strikes, the flow of movement. When mind and body are aligned with the rhythm of life, action becomes effortless. Overthinking disrupts this harmony. By syncing with the flow of life, through mindfulness, practice, and presence, we find the rhythm that guides wise action. Musashi believed that knowing yourself was the root of all strategy. Without self-awareness, you cannot navigate the world effectively. Overthinking often masks a lack of true self-knowledge. We overanalyze because we don't trust our inner compass. To follow Musashi's path, one must engage in daily introspection, observing one's thoughts and behaviors without judgment. The way of Musashi is about preparation without obsession. He trained for all possible outcomes, but did not dwell on imagined fears. We often overthink by rehearsing every scenario, trying to anticipate life perfectly. Musashi trained so that, in the moment, he didn't need to think. He simply responded. Proper preparation enables spontaneous action. Musashi's void scroll in the Book of Five Rings represents the formless, the unknown. He saw the void not as a source of fear, but of potential. Overthinking tries to fill the void with control. Musashi invites us to stand in it with confidence. When we accept not knowing and remain open, we step into a space where growth and creativity thrive. Courage in Musashi's eyes was not bravado, but unwavering resolve. Overthinking often comes from trying to avoid discomfort. Musashi faced discomfort head-on. He slept outdoors, faced stronger opponents, and embraced solitude. By exposing ourselves to challenge, we strengthen our tolerance for uncertainty and quiet the mind's anxious chatter. Musashi practiced detachment, not from life, but from outcome. He fought to win, but was not attached to winning. Overthinking often arises from outcome obsession. What if I fail? What if it goes wrong? Musashi teaches that when we release attachment to results, we become more effective. We act because it is right to act, not because we're guaranteed a certain outcome. Musashi's philosophy teaches us the power of restraint. While the modern world encourages us to speak, respond, and react quickly, Musashi often held back, choosing only the right moment to strike. Overthinking often pushes us to act prematurely or say too much. Learning to pause not out of fear, but out of precision, allows our actions to be both timely and impactful. The famed samurai believed in mastering all crafts, not for fame, but for discipline. Whether painting, sculpting, or dueling, Musashi brought the same intense focus to everything. Overthinking scatters our attention. Musashi's path channels it. When we bring the same deliberate intent to every action, the mind becomes grounded, and overthinking has no soil in which to grow. Musashi's concept of the twofold gaze, looking broadly and minutely at once, teaches us to balance strategy and detail. Overthinking often results from losing that balance, zooming too far into a detail or floating endlessly in the abstract. Learning to see the whole field in the smallest motion simultaneously gives us clarity. We can move with informed awareness, not mental overload. Discipline was Musashi's anchor. He lived a life of self-imposed structure, not to restrict freedom, but to create it. Overthinking thrives in the absence of structure. By cultivating daily rituals, simple practices, and clear routines, we can create a mental environment less prone to confusion. Discipline creates clarity. Clarity dissolves overthinking. Musashi respected timing as a weapon in itself. He didn't rush into battle. He waited for the exact moment when his strike would be most effective. Overthinking, by contrast, can rush us into premature decisions or delay us indefinitely. Musashi's wisdom suggests we must tune ourselves to the rhythms of life, know when to wait, when to act, and when to walk away. In the end, Musashi teaches us that clarity is not the absence of thought, but the mastery of it. Overthinking is a mind undisciplined, flailing in the dark. Musashi's path is a blade of discipline, intention, and presence that cuts through that darkness. He shows us that true strength lies in stillness, that wisdom is born of simplicity, and that the way forward is not always in thinking more, but in thinking less with greater purpose. The mind, like the sword, must be guided with precision, not frenzy. To conquer overthinking is not to silence the mind, but to harmonize it with the spirit, so that every thought becomes a step forward, not a step away.